Welcome to the DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Jason Gilbo, JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay. Taking a look at the Saturday night slate, and we just did the pitcher pod, and we had about four good things to say about four good people, so that should let you know that it should be a pretty offensive night. And, hopefully we said that yesterday, and we saw what happened. I mean, everyone that was in a good spot yesterday tanked.
It was gross. And there were a lot of noises in the pitcher pod, so if you enjoy random noises, those are in there for you. But yes, in theory, based on research, this should be a good night.
It should be. I mean, we said that last night, and we got about 6 runs combined from about 8 teams that were in good spots. So if you played anyone from those Vegas nine over-under games, you probably didn't have a good night. And trust the process. That's all I got to say.
Yes.
Looking at DK here, we're taking a look at catcher. And obviously, Buster Posey kind of stands out as one of the top options here with the lefty in Patrick Corbin. Who's allowed a 348 WOBA to righties since 2014 with a 1.35 runs per 9. Posey priced up a little bit, but still definitely the top guy for me.
Yeah, and I mean, he's right there with Lucroy at 4,200, but Posey for me over Lucroy. Though I do think both are viable, especially if you're looking to pay down at one spot. I think those are really good pay-up standalone options.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And sticking in that same game, Wellington Castillo, 3,700 against Peavy. Do you want to say it?
We're coming for you, Peavy. It's going to hurt. You're going to stack these Diamondbacks against you, and they're going to snake you. I would say bite, but that didn't sound like mean enough. So I said snake you. No, I'm definitely looking to stack Diamondbacks tonight against PV. He just hasn't been very impressive this year. And I actually do really like – I know we came off the Coors slate where they were really overvalued, but I do really like them in terms of 1 through 5 and then Castillo.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Castillo, one of the cheaper options there. So next one here, Salvador Perez, an interesting play. Struggling a bit of late, but obviously this Royals team has a great matchup against Mike Foltynewicz. Struggles against both sides of the plate. Right-handers over the last 2 seasons, 348 WOBA allowed, 1.45 home runs per 9 allowed. Salvador Perez, kind of an interesting GPP option because I know you can get him at some lower ownership.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. And really what we've seen from this catcher position, if your guy hits the home run, you're at a huge advantage. So like you mentioned, if you can get that ownership at a reduced price and sort of sneak him in there, I think that could be a big win for you.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're looking to punt, the Phillies have been rolling out Carlos Ruiz and Cameron Rupp. Both are very cheap, and they've been hitting fourth in the lineup. Ruiz 2,800, Rupp 27. So I think both are certainly in play if they're in that spot again. Because once again, if you're hitting cleanup, I'll take a look at you no matter what your price is a catcher.
It really is true, but Rupp has really made that especially painful on a few nights for me, where you're like, all right, well, he is batting fourth, sure. So there is that where you just look at him and he just goes 0 for 4 again. But yeah, I do like that upside of where he is in the order.
Yeah, definitely. At that price, you're not risking a ton either.
And then you look at like the 3,200 range with Russell Martin and Matt.
Oh my God, don't say it. You got to get off the.
No, listen. Hear me out. I'm gonna say something cool here, and not cool, but like, they have a lot of name power, but they're kind of doing the same thing right now. Just not much offense coming from either of them. So do we keep sort of going with them, or do we just start to fade them all out?
I think with I think it just once again, it just depends on the site for me. Eventually these guys are going to come around, and hell, maybe they won't. That's just one of the things. It's baseball, but I think with Castillo, just a couple hundred more, you roll that way. Perez as well, and I just think, Ruiz has hit much better than both those guys this year. So
yeah,
you kind of just roll there and go with it for the meantime.
I think we kind of just look at them as punts right now, and they're not really cheap enough to be full punts. So I think you just kind of got to avoid them for now.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at first base tonight, and once again, we got the Coors Series. Lucas Duda sits up there much, much heavier than last than last night. But overall, Eddie Butler, 451 WOBA allowed to lefties since 2014, 2.08 home runs per nine. This Mets stack is in a great spot. I mean,
wow. I mean,
to really do some damage, and Duda's certainly in play.
I mean, once you get into the 400s in WOBA, you're really in trouble as a pitcher.
I'd say
so. Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty solid option there. I mean, eventually this Mets stack is going to hit. I know it. So I'm probably going to be going to the well with them again today. And you're more than welcome to join me.
Definitely. And I mean, with Chris Davis in that spot, it kind of puts him out of play for me up in that range. Paul Goldschmidt, kind of an interesting pivot play from Duda. At 4,900 going up against PV, who's been absolutely dreadful this season. And Chase Fields arguably been very close as far as fantasy friendly to bats in comparison to Coors this season.
Yeah, I think those two though, Duda and Goldschmidt, are the ones I'm really looking at in that range. Though I kind of like Goldschmidt more than Encarnacion. Freddie Freeman, I'm not really into him at that price. I'm not really into Cabrera at that price based on his struggles of late. So I think I'm really looking at Duda and Goldschmidt in that range, and kind of unless I go with a Toronto stack again, which I probably will. I'm probably going to be fading the rest of the guys in that range.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, first base is a spot to pay up for here on DraftKings. It's just, you're looking at these guys. I mean, once you drop below that Cabrera, I mean, I don't mind Eric Hosmer, but when I can get Goldschmidt or Encarnacion or Duda for just a couple hundred more, it's just like, why? These guys, there's not a far enough difference for me where it's making a huge difference.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I can't really find anyone that I like down below just because of their price tags.
Okay, so not Prince Fielder. We learned that lesson yesterday and the whole first part of the season. Not Prince Fielder.
Nah, I mean, the way he's swinging the bat, it's kind of like, all right, I need to see him get on a little run here before I take a look at him.
I mean, we see a guy like Adam Jones kind of go on a run after sort of a slump, but when it's this bad for Prince, I think you just fade it for right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, if there's one cheap GPP name, it's Justin Smoke, 3,400. Hitting over 400 in the last 10 games, so it is intriguing, obviously. Colby Lewis hasn't been solid, 348 WOBA allowed in Texas. He would be the only cheap guy I'd maybe consider punting at first base.
Yeah.
So, but it is really a night to pay up there. Second base here, you have a couple options up top once again, but they're all very expensive. Neil Walker at 4,800, obviously the Coors bump there. We just talked about Butler and the lefties. Walker, another lefty that can take advantage. Gene Segura, a big-time price bump in comparison to yesterday's. It's like now these guys are all just getting clumped together with a Coors slate, and I don't like any of them.
I mean, again, if you're going with a Diamondback stack, you just throw them in there just because. But other than that, you don't really like the price as an individual standalone play. So, yeah, I'm not liking that. Odor feels a little overvalued right now. I'm not really touching them either. I'd rather just pay up for a Murphy or something.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Overall, I think there might be some cheap options down low. The Padres have not rolled out a starter yet. I mean, either way, I think we'll be posting in the comments just about some stats that they've allowed once that comes announced. But a guy like Scooter Gannett would be a guy who maybe you take a shot on at 4,300 if you want to be a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, I think that's a fair call.
But outside that, and maybe Aaron Hill as well. So two Brewers guys who could do some damage.
And Dietrich is 2,900, and it's going to be Rourke, correct?
Rourke's pitching. It's not Strasburg in that night game.
So he's kind of intriguing at that reduced price. But yeah, other than that, he's really just a punt, though.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely with you there. And maybe Cesar Hernandez again, who just kind of comes in and just gets you maybe 5 to 8 points every now and then. You're not necessarily looking for a ton of production down there, but obviously they're more there for salary relief, so you can get in those big bats.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, you're really looking up top. You're looking at Murphy and Walker's kind of being the top plays, and I don't mind Odor as a pivot.
Right.
So, Third base here, obviously now Arenado certainly in play against Logan Vareo, a weaker arm in consideration to Harvey. I mean, once again, you're looking at guys like Manny Machado, David Wright. I think you just pay up for Arenado at home.
Yep, I'm with you. Obviously Machado always in play, but I'm just going to go Arenado here, even though he hasn't really been worth his price lately. I think you just got to keep going with the process there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, he spent some time away from Coors. But overall, I mean, the way this pricing is set up, it's like Donaldson, Machado, right, Arenado, all above 5K within just a slight $100 or two, and it's like, why? I mean, you're not forcing us to really make any sort of decisions here,
right?
So if you're looking cheaper, though, Nick Castellanos an interesting swerve. He's been red hot, hitting the ball really well off right-handed pitching this season. Obviously against Mike Wright, very very much in play. At home, Wright's been home run prone at times and Camden yards. We've seen some relatively low scoring, I guess more so in Friday's game, but I think Castellanos is a nice GPP option.
Yeah, and I think for punts, Justin Turner, he's got a tough matchup, but I think he's a reasonable punt play at this point. Other than that, it's kind of, I think you really want to pay up here, honestly.
Michael Franco, I mean, still a nice price tag, struggling but hitting third. Once again, he's kind of like much of the other Phillies in a great spot, but value, and they all haven't really been coming around outside of Odubel Herrera.
I'm okay with Matt Carpenter at 4K as well.
What about Jake Lamb? Jake Lamb's kind of interesting, 3,800 play. Going up against PV. I think he kind of stands out in that tier right there.
Yeah,
just with the way PV's pitched this year.
I'm with you. We're going after him, so
I mean, you're on board. Looking at shortstop here, you got the Machado eligibility, but you also have Trevor Story, 5,200 in play. Story, I'm looking at more so of a GPP option tonight. I think he's the only one. The only way he's going to work into my lineups is in a stack. I can't see him really being a one-off at that price tag.
No, that they're really pushing his price tag at this point. I am into the comfort of the core stacks tonight. I just think that's a safer way to go. If you do play cash, I think that is kind of the way to go. Maybe fit a Nola in there, and then try to fit some of these bats in there, because I don't know. I feel like that's really the one safe way to get production tonight.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I mean, some cheaper guys here. Obviously, Troy Tulowitzki continues to be super cheap, but the guy is just, he's much like a Russell Martin. He's just not producing. I mean, he's hitting below 200. It's just, I can't keep chugging him out there when he's, get me 3-0 points a game. It's just not worth it. I mean, eventually he's going to have those breakout games, but I mean, he's definitely just a GPP only at this point.
Right.
If you're looking cheaper, I mean, Brandon Crawford, an interesting GPP option just because he has solid ISO numbers against lefties. Gets lefty and Corbin there. I think it'd be kind of an interesting fit there. I think if you want to really differentiate yourself, I don't mind Crawford in that ballpark.
Yeah, that's a fair call.
You sure? I mean, you don't sound too positive about Crawford.
He's all right. I'll give it to you.
All right. Well, we will revisit that Sunday morning when he hits a homer. If you're looking cheaper, I mean, there's not a lot down here. I mean, really, Diaz for St. Louis would be a guy to maybe consider. One thing about him is his lineup spot. He might be hitting ninth, but at that price tag, I don't really care. He's going to have the lefty-righty matchup there with Kazmir.
And again, Hechavarria is always a cheap option if you're going with a Marlins-related lineup. And he's always cheap. He's always down there. So if you do go that direction, he's always going to be there for salary relief.
Yeah, and I think, with the state of shortstop, it's like if you're not paying up, you might as well just pay all the way down. Outfield, obviously, you're going to look at this Mets team here. Conforto more expensive than yesterday, 4,800 on DK. Branderson 54, Cespedes 56, but certainly all in play against Butler.
Yeah.
And I think they do make great one-offs because I think they are going to hit today. And also, I mean, that stack is probably the number one ranked on the night.
Yeah, I think it kind of has to be when you threw out the numbers on Butler earlier. I think that is what people should be really keeping in mind when you're really building lineups here. It's like you're staring at a potentially huge night. And I don't think these prices are going to scare people away in cash or tournaments, really.
No, because I mean, if you look, I mean, there's no pitcher, over 10K. There's also guys like, who we were talking about, Dylan G, Willie Peralta, and decent spots for super cheap. So you can kind of get tons of exposure to this game, and you really have no problem doing that with salary.
Right.
And also, I mean, the Colorado bats, Logan Veray, Cargo, Blackman, Parra certainly in play as well.
Definitely.
If you want to look a little bit cheaper, obviously, I think the Detroit stack is kind of a sneaky one in comparison to Coors tonight. The way Upton's played, I don't think he justifies that price tag of 4,500, but I do like Martinez at the same price there.
Yeah, I like that, definitely.
I mean, you can kind of sit in that tier with the guys like Lorenzo Cain and Hunter Pence. Pence hits lefties very well. Certainly in play for me in Chase Field at that price tag. Anyone else were you look in that area?
I mean, again, I think if you're going with Toronto, Kevin Pillar's intriguing. He's only 3,900. Matt Holliday again, I think is a fair price for sort of a pretty strong Cardinals offense against Kazmir. Michael Saunders, I'm okay with those guys.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. If you want to go kind of cheap, Nomar Mazara, 3,400, interesting guy who's in the top 5 of the lineup there. If you want to get some exposure to that game. And once again, we'll be mentioning the Padres guy in the comments, but Domingo Santana at 3,300 could be put in a good spot there for value.
Yeah, and he had really high cash ownership last night, so I'm thinking that's a guy you want to be looking at again if you're in cash, as maybe a guy to sort of stabilize at least.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Outside of that, I mean, there's not too many punt plays. Ben Revere hit leadoff last night. I know he jammed his hand. I don't think it was broken. But that would be certainly, I mean, leadoff for the Washington team against Flores at 2,800 would be a punt play worth looking at. So let's wrap things up with the DK Daily Trot. Check out dailyfantasycafe.com for all our great tools and content.